Okay, I think we can start. So greetings everyone and welcome again to another Eye on Africa. My name is Awasar and I'm Assistant Director for Academic Affairs at the African Studies Center here at Michigan State University. And as you may have noticed now, the Eye on Africa speaker series is bi-weekly. It used to be weekly, but now we're going bi-weekly. And we're glad to resume after a long break. So we are very delighted today to have Dr. Mercy Okezue as our speaker. And before I pass it over to her, a brief introduction. So Dr. Mercy Okezue has over 20 years of experience in the regulatory sciences sector, pharmaceutical, medical device, and combination product. She holds a B Pharmacy degree and over 15 years of experience working as a GMP inspector and a QC/QA specialist with Nigeria's FDA. She obtained both her MS and PhD in biotechnology innovation and regulatory sciences from Purdue University. As a teaching fellow at Purdue, Dr. Okezue developed and delivered specialized topics in regulatory sciences to equip students with the skills required to work in quality regulated environment. She has worked on several early stage development projects and successfully synthesized and elucidated 5 salts of bedaquiline, I hope I said it right, a drug for treating multidrug-resistant TB as new molecular entities. She has published several peer-reviewed articles based on her research. She has received several awards and mostly attended ISTA Packaging Dynamics Professional certification and was honored as Michigan State University's College of Agriculture and Natural Sciences and Natural Resources 2025 Global Scholar in Education. At MSU School of Packaging, she focuses on synergizing expertise in regulatory science and pharmaceutical product stability to deliver real-world solutions to current medical packaging needs. Thank you so much, Doctor, for coming and sharing your research that we had the privilege of co-sponsoring, I believe, this past summer. So thank you so much for your willingness to share your research with us.
Thank you, Al. I'll share my presentation and I'll take it up from there. Please confirm that you can see it.
Yes, we can see.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Al, for the presentation and the introduction. I'm going to give a highlight overview of our visit, as she has mentioned, in the summer, in May specifically, to the West African sub-region. And so I'm going to be discussing or presenting the strategic partnerships that we formed with various stakeholders to enhance their capability to regulate food and pharmaceutical packaging. So this was the team from MSU that went to West Africa in May. And we visited 2 countries. We met with the third country, Senegal. We met with them virtually while we were here in the US 2 days before traveling. And we went physically to both Nigeria and Ghana. So I went with Dr. Radford Amy Pop and Aaron Tucker. Amy is the graduate program director here in School of Packaging, while Aaron Tucker is the undergrad academic advisor. So this is a highlight of the things that I'll be discussing throughout this presentation, and just a high-level overview of what I'll be talking about. Now, as we may or we may not know, I didn't know until about a year ago when I joined the School of Packaging. The School of Packaging here in Michigan is the foremost institution that teaches packaging in the whole of the United States. Currently, it's the only institution that teaches packaging at the doctoral level as a standalone program. So we are the foremost and the first and the largest and the most comprehensive packaging school in higher education in the United States. So we are the pioneer in the field of packaging. Now, many times when we think of packaging, we only think about, oh, a carton or maybe a box. However, packaging science is interdisciplinary. And for our students, they carry out projects or they gain expertise and competence in different aspects of STEM, including, calculus, physics, chemistry, statistics, and then material sciences, which includes paper, plastic, glass. They also gain expertise in how these products, these materials that are used to package different products are distributed. So the distribution channels, as well as the supply chains that these products go through, and the science behind it. They use software tools and conduct lab research on actually things that can impact a product due to its packaging. And so they also conduct research in the area of medicines, foods, and even automobiles, as well as do life cycle assessments in terms of sustainability of materials. So you can see that packaging science is truly interdisciplinary, and the students are equipped to work in various industries when they graduate. So the vision that I had when I came into the School of Packaging here at MSU was that I saw a gap, that having worked for Nigeria's FDA for about 15 years plus before coming to the US to take on my doctoral program, I observed that in West Africa, although our FDAs are currently, at least for the 3 countries that we started with, and that was why we actually chose those countries. So the 3 countries, Senegal, Nigeria, and Ghana, currently have WHO maturity level 3. What that means is that they have been found by WHO to be competent enough that when they assess materials, when they do laboratory tests, when they carry out regulatory activities, the results that they get is comparable to the results you will get anywhere in the world. These laboratories or these FDAs, their laboratories also have ISO 17025 accreditation. What that also means is that when they test any medicine sample and they give you a result, if you take it to anywhere in the world, the best labs, you will get the same result. So that is the confidence that we had while we started with these 3 countries, because they have a structured framework. And we believe that by working with them, we can then cascade the program to other countries in the sub-region. But the gap, another gap we notice is that it's only in Ghana that one school teaches packaging science at the undergrad level. So although these countries have a well-structured regulatory framework that should be regulating packaging of products that are manufactured within those countries, they don't actually have schools that teach packaging science. So what is happening is that when we looked at their websites, there was no indication that they were regulating packaging of locally manufactured products. And because many products coming into West Africa are imported products, they tended not to look at, okay, what about those people that are manufacturing locally? Are we looking at how they are packaging their products? And that was the vision that we had about embarking on this journey. We want to empower the regulatory authorities to be able to do their oversight function of regulating food and medical products that are manufactured within the country, within those countries, as well as work with the higher institutions to be able to institute packaging science in their country. So that's why in our vision, we have 3 main stakeholders that we visited during this visit. the regulators, because they are supposed to provide regulatory oversight over packaging and packaging systems within the country. Now the academia also, we met with the academia because we had discussions on how to institute School of Packaging and the packaging curriculum to be able to conduct research that is relevant to their environment and graduate students that would fit into the manufacturing sector. And we also met with manufacturers, packaging manufacturers, as well as other manufacturers to sensitize them. So when we were traveling, we requested the FDA that when we are meeting with them, we want stakeholders, the academia and the manufacturers to be part of those meetings, like a sensitization to make them aware, to make the manufacturers aware that the FDA is soon going to start regulating packaging within their environment. And normally that's the way regulations are brought into a system. You first of all sensitize the people you are going to regulate about what you are going to do. So with this visit, we're able to achieve that in part. Because now the FDA has become aware that this is a part of our regulatory oversight that we need to pay attention to. Now, we also advocated for to the manufacturers and the FDA that now that we have schools in the region, so for each of the countries, we visited 3 countries. For each of the countries, we asked for representatives from 2 schools. Now we looked at I wouldn't know the category or how to categorize those schools in those countries, but we were looking for people that were willing to collaborate with us. And we had representatives from the food science department as well as Department of Pharmacy, because those are the 2 areas that the FDA has oversight function, that's food and drugs. And so for the 3 countries, we had academia from both departments coming into the meetings. Now, the manufacturers, we also made them aware that when these schools begin to teach packaging science, they will be mandated to actually employ students that are graduating from those programs, because that is why in the US, our graduates don't look for jobs. So here in the School of Packaging, our undergraduate population, it's in the hundreds, and that is being sustained over the years. The reason is that the way the FDA does, and that is the way it's supposed to be all over the world. So people working in the packaging department of any manufacturing facility, any facility, any product at all that is packaged should have a packaging degree. That's the way that the FDA does inspections. When they go to a facility, when they get to the packaging section and they look at the training records or academic records of those working in that department, they should have a packaging degree. And that's why our students always have a job when they graduate. And so those are the kind of sensitization we wanted to bring to our region, the region that we visited, which is the West African sub-region, that this is something they need to start considering in their hiring, that so long as they have students that have a packaging degree, they are encouraged to employ those students, because when the system gets set and the FDA gets their acts right, they will now clamp down on manufacturers that are not employing the appropriate skills in that particular department. So that's why we wanted those 3 stakeholders to be part of our meetings, and the FDA obliged us. We're able to meet with the 3 of them at the same time. Now, in our discussion with these groups, because like I said, when we were meeting with the FDA, the stakeholders came there, but we also went to the stakeholders individually. So it was a very tight visit, and for each of those days, we really had a lot of places to visit. So depending on the group that we met, we had different areas that we focused on. So for this particular next set of slides, these were the awareness we brought to the academic, to those in academia. We exposed them about the different types of research that we conduct here in the School of Packaging at MSU. So a very common area of interest or research that would interest everybody across board, no matter the industry you are in, is the issue of modified atmospheric packaging. Now, this is an innovative technology that essentially investigates how to change atmospheric surroundings within a packaged product. We all know that oxygen would aid degradation, okay? It will accelerate the way a material spoils. So the goal in using modified atmospheric packaging is to slow down those kind of deteriorative processes. And the common ways or mechanisms is by either using a passive modified atmospheric packaging, which would just involve a design or a material that does not actively, let me use the same word, do this work. But another way is through the active means, in which you use a particular mechanism that would do function through a particular way to keep oxygen or other unwanted gases out of, or materials such as water vapor or moisture out of a packaged material. So popular methods for achieving MAP is through gas flushing, barrier films, and then use of desiccant packaging. And like I said, this is very advantageous to control the quality of products. So gas flushing would be when you use, you displace oxygen from the overhead space in a particular product, and so that oxygen does not contribute to the degradation of that product, and also decreases the growth of microorganisms, because when you starve any organisms within the product of any oxygen, then you retard the spoilage of that particular product. Barrier films would be things like using films. Let's say that when you open most products, you would see a film, like a blister on top of it. So that is an example of a barrier package, which is just, it's passive. And then scavengers or desiccants will be use of things like things that would actively remove oxygen and moisture from a packaging. We also discussed with the academia the possibility of being mentored by some of our professors, our senior professors here in the School of Packaging, and the type of research that they are doing, so that when they start taking on, because another vision that we brought to them is that they can actually get a packaging degree through our online master's program. So, and some of them will be wondering, okay, it's only you that came for this visit. You are into medical packaging. I'm not into medical packaging. So we try to broaden their vision or their horizon to know that there are other professors that are doing other types of research within the School of Packaging, and they can become like their mentors or their supervisors during if they decide to do an online master's program with us. So we introduced Professor Laurent Matuana, and the type of research that he does. Currently, he's involved in a shape proposal, sorry, excuse me, which he is doing he's partnering with some other professors here and some other partners outside MSU for this particular project. And in April 2024, they received a $1 million NSF grant about developing this particular program. And also we introduced Professor Mohamed Rabnoaz, who is currently having another NSF-sponsored program here in the School of Packaging. And we all know that there's a lot of waste, mostly packaging material waste that is generated. So his group is looking at sustainability and conducting research on the end-of-life issues associated with packaging materials. We also brought this to made the academia aware that they can reach out to these professors, told them how to contact them and how to collaborate with them if that is their area of interest. Now, for the regulators, when we met with them, what we exposed them to was basically how packaging is regulated in Europe and in the US. So we introduced some examples of regulations that are around packaging in Europe, so such as the Rapid Alert System for Food and Feed. And with this regulation, Europe monitors contamination on food. So any food material that is contaminated within the EU, they have this RAS system that notifies all the countries in the EU so that that is nipped in the bud. That problem is nipped in the bud. So if there's a milk contamination or any food product contamination, it quickly circulates within the EU through this RAS, and then the kind of other countries that that product will probably be sold in kind of mops up the product. So that way they keep their citizens safe. Another is the trade associations. Okay, so in Europe, they also have the European Printing Ink Association. And what they regulate is this association, the trade association, became active after a particular incidence of where milk caused harm in Europe. And that was because of the labeling on the body of the milk. And the labeling, the ink with which the milk was labeled, migrated into the product and poisoned the milk. And after that, the company, which was Nestle, that was in charge, that it was their product that was impacted, they began by themselves to regulate heavily on the type of ink that is used in their milk products. And the regulations or the guidelines, they are called guidelines, that Nestle generated after that incident in 2005 became like worldwide. It became accepted worldwide as to how to regulate the ink that is used in food products. So we also have other regulations that is used in the EU. Now in the US, there are regulations around how different types of products are packaged. And examples are the Fair Packaging Labeling Act, which is implemented by the Federal Trade Commission, and it establishes the labeling requirements for all consumer products, how they should be labeled, be it food, drugs, cosmetics, and tobacco. There are regulations about how they should be labeled. And then the Poison Prevention Act. This became prominent, and we emphasize on this particular regulation because it was developed when people noticed that children under 5 were able to open products that looked like, say household detergents that are liquid and they are blue or they are pink. When children look at them, what they see is the color, and many children suffered harm because they ingested this. So here in the US, there's a regulation around when you should put child-resistant closures on certain products. And this particular act the data shows that this particular act, when it was enforced, it was first of all enforced through the FDA, but later the consumer protection, a consumer protection body started implementing it. However, because they have put these regulations in place, you will notice that your household chemicals now have child-resistant closures, and it will be difficult for children to get into it. And in that process, it should not also be difficult for adults to be able to open it. So there is a science behind how those closures are actually made or fabricated so that they keep out children, but do not hinder older adults from opening it or using such products. So we also brought to their notice about such regulations. Now, in the US, again, the US FDA is one of the regulations that they have about over-the-counter medicines. Now, over-the-counter medicines in the US, all of them, it is required that they have tamper-evident packaging, such as what you are seeing here, all right? And again, this was after there was a Tylenol poisoning that made this regulation to go into effect. Now, over-the-counter products are not they're not prescription products. So people can just walk into a pharmacy or a regular store and pick them up. You don't need to see a pharmacist to buy your Tylenol, okay? And so that's why for each of those products, there's a regulation in the US that it must have this tamper evident packaging so that it prevents people from purposely contaminating this product. And so because if a pharmacist is handing over a prescription to you, you are sure that it was kept in good condition. But the ones on the shelf, who is protecting the consumer from whoever wants to come in and maybe lace it with maybe something like cyanide? That's why that for every OTC in the US, there is the need for it to have tamper-evident packaging. We also brought this to the attention of the FDA that these are the type of regulations that they should be making in their countries. Another thing that the US FDA does is to regulate the amount of extractables, that is before your product is registered, you have to do extractable and leachable studies as well as migration studies. And that shows how much of the components of a packaging, the chemicals in the packaging system itself that can get into a product. So when you keep milk in a plastic container for 1 month in your fridge, it has been established before that plastic container was approved to keep that milk. The company established that not the monomers or the polymers or the additives or whatever that plastic was made of do not leach enough into the product that it would affect the consumer. So those are the type of studies we want our FDAs to start requiring from manufacturers, that the packaging that they are going to use to pack any product, they will have to provide data to show that substances are not leaching into the products above the amounts that are permissible for human safety. So we also discussed different types of regulations that the FDA, some of these regulations, they are actually doing it already. So, example, when the FDA goes for an inspection in a facility, any facility, they look out for labels, okay? And then the packaging materials. It's required that these packaging materials are actually quarantined so that there are no mix-up between the packaging for one product with the other. So it's actually a very, they have very stringent rules about how packaging materials are handled. So we just reemphasize that these are the type of things that they need to be doing when they go for inspection. And then the issue of labeling, how labels are issued during manufacturing process, that labels are very sensitive materials. And you can imagine if a manufacturer manufactures 5 different products on the same line, and they do not mop up all the labels that they had just finished to label a 10 milligram of substance A. And then there are some of the labels lying here and there. And then they now start manufacturing substance B or product B, which is supposed to be 2 milligram. But a label for the 10 milligram gets affixed to the 2 milligram. You can imagine what that would, but it actually happens. These are the things, these are real life scenarios. So the regulations about keeping close monitoring, like oversight on manufacturers about how they regulate their labels, the issuance of their labels, are things that we also made the FDA aware. And then the issue of expiry dating. Now when we came to this point, we made them aware that actually they are looking at expiry dates. Okay, our local manufacturers are affixing expiry dates on product, but are they actually giving us data to show that their expiry date that they are affixing on our product is based on science, is based on research, is based on the product being inside a container and then putting it under stability and assessing the quality of that product over time? Because that is how actually expiry dates are gotten. And so for this particular aspect, we encourage them that there is a course that we offer here at MSU School of Packaging that actually deals on permeability and shelf life. And if they are interested, they can do that as a certificate course and actually get expertise on how to determine the expiry dates of products that they are regulating. So again, the issue of child-resistant packaging, it's very, very important for Africa. And that's because Africa's population for this age group is very high and it's increasing. And that was why we were really, really emphasizing on the issue of child packaging. Now, we also met, apart from the FDA, we also met with the standards organizations of the countries that we visited. And that's because apart from food and drug, there are other products that are packaged. And it's the standards organization that actually sets the standards for packaging. And so that was why we met with the standards organization. And for that group, we highlighted the three main international standards that are used for packaging, which is the ASTM, the United States Pharmacopoeia standards, and then the international, that's the ISO standards. These three standards around packaging they are related. I recently had a student that did like a systematic review of these three systems or the three standards, the testing standards, and compared them to see areas of overlap and areas of differences. And it's quite an interesting, hopefully the paper should soon be published. And so we have examples, different types of standards, ASTM standards that addresses consumer, pharmaceutical, medical, and child-resistant packaging. We have ASTM standards that addresses packaging, that is package integrity, which are standard measures, standard methods for determining the integrity of seals or for flexible packaging, just by visual inspection or by other means. And then apart from visual inspection, there are also non-destructible destructible methods of detecting leaks. And then the destructible ones, of course, of detecting leaks in a packaging system. Now, there are also ASTM standards for paper and paperboard products. And another ASTM standard that we highlighted was that for permeation. So this also ties back to issue of determining the shelf life of products. So the ASTM standards for gas permeation, water permeation, oxygen permeation. And one interesting thing that happened during our visit, there was a faculty in the University of Ghana. Now, she wanted to do a project that required water vapor transmission rate of certain materials, and she could not because she did not have the facility. But during our visit, and we were discussing, because the three stakeholders were there, we identified a company that actually has that particular equipment. And right there and then, we linked both industry and the faculty, and we said that is the reason why this is important. These three groups forming this type of collaborative understanding such that the academia can go to, especially their standard boards. The standard boards in these countries have a lot of equipment that are being underutilized, which faculty can actually use to carry out their research. But these were things that our visits highlighted and brought to the forebearing that, oh, you guys have this type of equipment and we didn't know all these years. So just meeting with them and forming those collaborations, honestly, it made our day for these visits. And we are hoping to continue with those type of meetings in the future. And we've established those types of collaborations and at this initial meeting, and we know that they are fostering it. So for the United States Pharmacopoeia, the United States Pharmacopoeia has standards, different type of standards that address packaging. And this is one area that MSU promised the three countries that we are going to provide capacity for their FDA at no cost. So currently, I'm working with another professor, another faculty here in the School of Packaging. He will handle the food aspect while I'll handle the medical. But we're going to be providing training for the FDA and the other stakeholders at no cost to teach them the standards that are available in the United States Pharmacopoeia. And so these are examples of the standards that we will be teaching them or will be using to like create empowerment, or let's just say make them more equipped to do their job, especially the regulators among them. Then for the ISO standards, there are ISO standards that address both pharmaceutical and food product packaging, and these are examples of those standards. These PowerPoints were made available to the different stakeholders depending on who we met, and we gave them this PowerPoint so that they could look at it and continue to, they have been reaching out. FDA Ghana sent me a mail about 2 weeks ago reminding me of our promise that we said we are going to do like capacity building for their employees, which I also responded that so before this visit, I had contacted somebody in the United States Pharmacopoeia to conduct some of these trainings. But after the visit with when fundings were removed from agencies, the USP kind of doesn't do things for free again. So we now had to come back and say, okay, we need to do this ourselves as School of Packaging. And so we are beginning to develop those PowerPoints that we're going to use to, so there was a help that would have helped us do that in the past, but things have changed and we need to come up with innovative ways of keeping our promise that we made to those countries. So, this demograph here shows actually that, and this was the reason why we kept emphasizing on child safety packaging for children under 5. Africa, actually, both currently, though Asia has the highest world population, but Africa has the highest number of under 5s. And in the future, it has been projected that Africa is going to, with the birth rate, because it's the birth rate that they are using to make these predictions. So we are going to have a problem if we don't start controlling how our products are manufactured, just the way we are doing here in the US and in Europe. And they're beginning to clamp down on manufacturers, making sure that the closure system that they are using in their products in the countries, children are not able to get into it. So those are the type of research that we want, or the types of things that we want our partners in Africa to start looking at. The closure systems that we are using for our products, it should be child resistant to keep our children safe, because we are going right now and in the future, we have the highest number of under 5s in our population. So another thing that we highlighted during our visit was how the absence of packaging regulation is impacting the economy of our the countries. So there's increased risk with what I have at least the little I've said. It's obvious that there's increased risk of product degradation if packaging is not when people don't think about the packaging they're using for a product, you just pack things because that's what is available. There's a science in packaging, and it is specific to a product that you are manufacturing. You need to get the right packaging for that product. So what has happened over the years is that there has been increased risk of product degradation in that sub-region because there is no science behind the way that packaging is being done there. And also, the products that are manufactured within that sub-region we perceive to be substandard because we are neglecting, again, the issue of packaging. There's also reduced competitiveness in our ability to sell the products from that region to the outside world. And then it's also difficult to actually export the products coming from those regions. So with that, we began to advocate that there will be trade and competitiveness when they begin to look into packaging science. And it also would bring curb waste management. And actually, there's a lot of employment when in that area, when people begin to look at recycling and recycling different types of packaging material or waste products. So in summary, for the packaging regulations, it will improve the economic growth within sub-Saharan Africa by promoting sustainable practices and then ensuring product quality and safety. And it also fosters growth through industries like packaging and waste management industries springing up all over the sub-region. Actually, in Ghana and in Nigeria, though we didn't visit Senegal physically, they actually have big recycling plants. And we visited at least 2 of them in Kumasi. One was in Kumasi and the other one was in Accra. But they actually have very huge plants that handle recycling. And what the person in Ghana told us that the one in Lagos, Nigeria is even a bigger plant than, because we saw a massive plant and he was like, oh, that the same company is even in Lagos, Nigeria, and it's even a bigger plant than what we're seeing there. So actually there are lots of job creation around this area. So those are the type of the things that we highlighted. Like I said, one of our objectives we had about speaking with the groups, the different groups, especially the academia, was the need for them to start a packaging science curriculum in their universities. What is currently happening is that some of the universities, so like the professors we met, they teach some aspects of packaging in their different institutions in different, so pharmacy teaches things about pharmaceutical packaging in the Department of Pharmacy. Food science does the same, but they do not have a department that teaches packaging science. And so we kind of threw open this option that one of the easiest way to start that would be for the schools to select faculty that are interested in starting up this program, and then let them start with an MS online degree here at the School of Packaging. They may be professors already in their different fields, but when they get an MS degree from School of Packaging here online, then they can develop a curriculum and then move forward and start that department of as a School of Packaging in their different institutions. But currently, it's only Kwame Nkrumah University in Ghana that has that degree. And the person that is actually the head of the department graduated here from Michigan State University. And I think we met 2 other people that graduated from Michigan State University at Kwame Nkrumah University. So their alumni many of them are here, or they graduated from here. So at the end of each of those stakeholders meeting, we always had these discussions and inquiries. We asked them the current level of packaging engagement they have, the different collaborators, that they should identify their training needs and then communicate that to us, which they have done. Some of our stakeholders that we met have done this. Like I said, Ghana FDA reached out 2 weeks ago and they were reminding me of what we had promised them. And so we looked at possible areas of collaboration. The challenge that they kept voicing was because they asked, we went with both the undergrad coordinator at student coordinator and the graduate student coordinator for School of Packaging. And so they kept asking, what is the cost of getting an MS online degree? And Dr. Radford Pop was able to provide all the information that they needed to be able to get their online MS degree in packaging. And as well as there are other packaging programs that there are 3 of them. Actually, there's the in-person, the online, and then there's the professional. Because of, and we were very honest, we were very transparent about this, because of visa issues, it may not be possible for us to start advocating the coming on site, but for the online, it will take them a longer time. She gave the specifics for that. Yeah, so it's about, this is the 30 credits can be completed in about 3 years. So instead of the normal 1.5 years, it will take them about 3 years to do it. And the commitment will be 10 to 15 hours per week. And which the people that were interested, they were interested, but the issue of funding, how do they get, because she told them the cost of 1 credit. So it will cost them about $30,000 actually to get an online. And so the issue of funding was something that everybody, though they had the interest, that would be a rate limiting factor. Yeah, so that brought us to the issue of areas of collaboration for them to engage with possible people that can sponsor these programs for them, both internationally and locally. And so these are like, I'm just going to throw out pictures of some of the groups that we visited when we visited during our visit in the summer. This is the FDA for Nigeria FDA, and this is the Ghanaian FDA. This is a professor from University of Nigeria, Nsukka. He was a visiting scholar here at MSU. He's in food packaging. He's interested in advancing. He is the one championing he's in the forefront of trying to set up a packaging curriculum in Nigeria and the University of Nigeria, Nsukka. This professor is from pharmacy. He's from the University of Ibadan. And we met our colleague. He's in MSU here, but he was in Nigeria on sabbatical at that time, so he followed us to this visit. This is the CEO of Nigerian FDA. She was a professor here in the US for 35 years before going to be the DG of NAFDAC in Nigeria. So she really was interested in this program or the idea. What she suggested was that we should move faculty to establish the programs in the country. It will be easier for her to train her staff and get them a packaging degree within Nigeria than for her to try to say she's going to get funding for them to go to the US. It will be easier for the academia to and which is the same thing that other countries said. It will be easier for the academia to establish the School of Packaging curriculum, and then the FDA sends their personnel to those schools because they are in country. It will be cheaper for them that way, and they'll be able to conduct research that is relevant to their environment. So this is we met with the Ghana FDA, and again, we went with professors from Kwame Nkrumah University and the University of Ghana to this FDA visit. So this was the meeting with the Standards Organization. This was the Standard Organization of Nigeria, and this was the Standards Organization in Ghana. Then we visited the individual higher institutions. We went to, this was Kwame Nkrumah University, Ghana, and we visited and we met with both the students. We had a session with the students because these are students that are in the packaging program, their undergrad program for packaging. It's quite a large group. And some of them, it was the holiday time, so some of them actually traveled from different parts of Ghana to come in to be able to meet with us because we went during the time that their school was not in session, but many of them traveled from outside Kumasi to be able to make this meeting. And that was really showed the level of engagement and their excitement at, having they were really excited about the way we talk to the industry because they were worried about getting jobs after graduation. That's one of the highlights of our visit, that sensitization to the industry. And we also met with the University of Ghana. And so this was in Accra. We met with them and we had meetings where we did presentations, and each of them, the faculties, the different professors in the different departments, doing something related to packaging. We all came together, all in the aim of trying to create a department that would teach packaging science. So we left them with the task of nominating the people that will do the packaging science online program at MSU, how to sponsor it, and then be able to start the department. For some of the industries we visited when we were in Nigeria, we visited Jawa. Jawa is their local manufacturer, so they manufacture locally, and they manufacture, this was their beta, they took us to their beta-lactam factory. So a beta-lactam is a product that you don't make, is an antibiotic. So where you make things like ampicillin or amoxicillin, you do not make other products there. It has to be a standalone product. So we visited their beta-lactam facility, and we took pictures inside, but I just put this one out there because this is where their name is showing. And then we also visited other industries in Ghana. pharmaceutical manufacturing industries while we were in Ghana. Then so this was the Kumasi, the recycling plant in Kumasi. It's a very massive plant. I don't have the pictures here, but it's a very massive plant and employing a lot of people actually in the recycling, in the product waste recycling industry. And this was one of the industries we visited in Accra. And then EPAC is another industry that produces packaging material, flexible packaging materials for, I think it's an international brand. Yes, and they just have one of their sites in Ghana. So this is a highlight of the visit that we did during the visit to West African sub-region. And that brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening, and I'll be able to take any questions from here.
Thank you so very much. Wow, what an interesting topic. And yeah, so if people in the audience, you can raise your hand to ask a question, or you can type it in the Q&A section. So either way is fine, but really, really interesting. And you said it like I had no idea that. I'm sure, but this is not something you think very often, like packaging in Africa, how it's done. And I just wanted, if you could elaborate a little bit on the relationship or what kind of collaboration the people in charge of the standards and the academy, how are they collaborating, and if there is outreach for the population so they can know that these things exist, that because you have the general sense that in Africa, well, everybody does whatever they want, there is no regulation, but actually, so government, it seems, are trying to regulate packaging. And so I'm just wondering if you can elaborate why we're here for.
So, like I said, that was what drew me to this project, because immediately I assumed as a faculty here, I realized this is not existent in West Africa. I know. So the FDA knows, the standards they know. So that was why they were very keen when we visited. Honestly, they were like, this is what we've been waiting for. And they were actually very happy that I have worked with the FDA. And so I know that they know that they are not doing their work. They want to do it, but the know-how is what they don't know. And that is the importance of what we have brought to them. Now that they have seen that there's a way to get this knowledge, the collaboration between them, now, from my experience, right, the FDA and the standards don't generally work together. However, during our visit, the FDA in Ghana actually, when they were dropping us off, because it was the same day we did that visit, they actually went to drop us off in that. And in fact, the standards organization were willing to come to the FDA Ghana to do the meeting with us. But I said no, because the focus for both groups were different. So when they made that offer, that, oh, instead of us not to come to them, that they are willing to come over to, I said, no, it will not be necessary. We'll create a time. So we went to the standards organization in the evening after we went to the FDA in the morning. But what I've realized is that the people in West Africa, all the stakeholders, saw the need about what we are bringing. They saw the gap, and they are willing to fill that gap. And like I was discussing with Awa just before the meeting started, you'll be surprised at the level of expertise that we have in our regulatory organizations, because actually those are the best brains in the countries that are employed in those, just like the FDA here in the US. They have the best brains. These are people that have masters. Some of them have PhD. However, they are getting these degrees in their regular fields and not in this area that is something that they know they ought to be doing, but they are not doing it because they were not equipped to. So that's why when we started, the wisdom that we had, I believe God gave us that wisdom, is when we're going to the FDA, we went to the other stakeholders. that gave us opportunity to be able to tell everybody, this, you guys need to come together in on this. Though one of the FDA said they don't want the industry to be part of the meeting because they don't want the industry to see their deficiency in this area, which is understandable. However, when we went to the industry, we told them, look, we have been to the FDA, we have told them about this, and they are going to clamp down on you guys soon. So the awareness is there. With the academia, we were each of the places, all those industries, when we went there, the academia went with us. And it was one of those visits that one of the faculty found out that there is an industry, though we didn't go to that particular industry, but she was talking about what hindered her research in packaging. And somebody said, hey, this other industry, and right there and then gave her a card of whom to. So what I see is that this initial site visit is an eye-opener, okay? Our people are willing to work with each other, but you need to know what this other person can offer. And you need to know that it's even there before you start approaching the person. But honestly, I'm believing that with this initial visit, people are aware that, especially the academia, they now know places where they can go and get certain equipments that are not available in the school. When we went to University of Ghana, we went to one of the faculties, and I saw HPLCs that were not working. And I'm like, I'm used to this type of thing. Before, when I was working for the FDA, people would come and dump equipment on us. So I sat the person down and I gave him like a 15-minute lecture of how to accept donated equipment. You just don't accept equipment because some people are willing to come and dump things on you, and believe me, it will just be headlines that they donated, but you can't use that equipment. So the need for you to receive training and actually sign agreements on maintenance, so things, and they were really, really very, very happy for those type of like tidbits of how to make things work. And we exchange contacts. They're in contact with us. One of the faculty from University of Ghana, is it from University of Ghana? Yes, because shortly after we came back, we met over Zoom to talk about his doctoral research, and I gave him ideas. So yes, with our visits, we have opened that door of partnership and collaboration, and it's just beginning. I can only imagine 10 years down the line, we would record a lot of success, hopefully.
Wonderful, wonderful. Great. Do we have any questions or comments from the audience?
So Solomon Ochua raised his hand.
Okay. Go ahead, Solomon. You're unmuted.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Mercy, for that wonderful presentation. I'm talking from Uganda.
Oh.
One time I went to Sombo textile mills in Ghana, and the substances that were released in the environment, and even some confectionaries that were made around, some of the people were using the water that seems to have been contaminated by the factory. I was worried. I even asked some questions. But now, Dr. Mercy, in Africa, we are fond of imitating the West or employing them to carry out studies. You are lamenting about the packaging. The materials may not be of standard, may have toxic substances. But even the consumed materials can matter a lot for our children and even the adults, because we are now a market economy and we are fond of taking our children to supermarkets to buy things from China, from Western world. Now, the question is there any independent research to detect the quantity of plastics and other toxicants in the blood of our young generation in Africa? Is there anything of that kind, scientific study, so that we can really rely absolutely on the findings I don't believe in the research carried out by World Health Organization and others. Ghana, Nigeria, Uganda, the indigenous scientists, is there anything of that kind so that we can save our generations? Thank you, Dr. Mercy, for listening to me.
Okay. Thank you, Solomon. I may not have the word answers to all the questions, but one of the things that we know is that people or academia in the universities that we visited. So many times research is carried out by people in the academia, maybe in collaboration with medical doctors or people that will be able to take blood samples, but somebody needs to write a protocol. Now, what we have found out, or what we found out during our visit, like we said, is an eye-opener. It's like awakening people's consciousness to these are possible areas of research. Okay. Now, when we begin to have people empowered to do research, okay, then research ideas, how to write protocols, how to carry out those protocols, who to collaborate with, because you may even take samples, blood samples from people. You must not necessarily do it in your country if you don't have a lab. But what education brings is that it brings awareness. It makes you know how to search the internet and look for possible collaborators, how to reach out to other scientists all over the world, even in the next country, finding out, is there somebody, a researcher was in Ghana and didn't know she could do her WVTR, that's water vapor transmission rate, with another company there in Ghana, and she stopped the whole research because of one equipment. But what our visit did, it was that it began to make people realize when you have a problem, don't just stop and say, oh, I have to go abroad to get this. There are actually many industries within Ghana, within Nigeria, within Senegal that have these things right there in their facility. If you have to pay a fee to use it, but with the type of partnership that we introduced, we made them see that it's a win-win situation. If you allow a researcher to come into your facility and use your equipment, just give the person the adequate training that they need. When they are publishing their paper, they are going to put you in acknowledgement, or they are going to go out there when they are giving that presentation and say, hey, it was this company, they allowed me to use their equipment, I was able to. So such type of partnerships or such type of collaborative activities is what we can offer. Believe me, there are many research going on in Africa. Another thing we wanted to create awareness of is on the issue of publications, being able to get your voice out there, because you can do research, but if that research is not conducted in a certain way and documented in a certain way, it becomes difficult for you to publish it in reputable journals and make the world listen to you. It's one step at a time. So people that are going to get the online degree from MSU, the School of Packaging, we are also thinking of incorporating such things as research, how to conduct proper research, okay? And then giving them those type of opportunities. Of course, a US degree is a US degree. And that automatically makes you stand out as a researcher, because the way you conduct research and the way you publish your research will be, it will be outstanding. So those type of relationships, hopefully it will yield to what you are talking about, where people are aware of what is happening in their environment and are actually empowered to be able to carry out research and publish things that would stand out as research that is conducted in an ethical manner and that you can trust the data, because that's what will make the outside world listen to you. But if you conducted a research and it's not well structured, the protocol was not well done, it didn't receive the proper approvals, then when you publish results, people begin to punch a lot of holes in it. So one step at a time and handling things in a systematic manner, I believe you're going to get there.
Thank you so much.
Any other question? Okay, so then we thank Dr. Mercy Okezue. Thank you so very, very much. We really appreciate it. This was eye-opening and very excited to hear that this kind of research is going on and people are thinking about establishing packaging schools in different academias in West Africa. This is good to know. And thank you everybody for attending. We appreciate you and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Thank you.
Thank you.